Hey, what's happening, everybody? My name is Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes. In our last tutorial, which I'll link up to both in the description and in this video as well, we looked at a way to build cards. Now, cards are a great way to assemble information. However, we use the React Bootstrap image to bring in these images, and they're not the right size. Now, by default, you'd have to go back in Photoshop and crop them. But I want to show you a better way of not affecting the image, but utilizing GraphQL. So if I do the magic behind the scenes, where what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a series of pieces of code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the code that essentially crops these two pictures, making your cards be more uniform. If I refresh the page, actually I have to stop my server, hit Gatsby develop. It's not going to recrop these pictures unless I re-kick this into action. So I had to stop my Gatsby develop server, load my plugins up. And I am not cutting away. This is like the magic where you do not go to commercial. Hope this is going to work. Building development bundle. And like magic, boop, it pops right back up. And now these two pictures are perfectly sized equally, but I didn't use any Photoshop to crop them. I'm going to show you a little more advanced way of using GraphQL, the Gatsby image, and a little bit of coding to make these pictures be the same size. And with that, let's get started. All right, welcome back. What's going on, ADWC Nation? Hope we're having a great day. So for this tutorial, I'm using the previous version and going forward. So what I did, just a quick little recap, is I have cards using columns, rows, and containers, courtesy of React Bootstrap. And in those cards, I also placed the React Bootstrap image, which is capital IMAGE. That's pretty good, but there's no way to edit this image. It just drops it in. And the problem is both pictures are not the same ratio in size. This picture of Muir Woods is just a little too big. And by default, in a classic way, I'm not going to say vanilla because that's also with React Bootstrap, but I'd have to go into Photoshop, crop this, and make it the exact same size. The problem with that is, one, it takes work. And two, what if I want to crop it to a different size down the road? When you crop, you lose information. So what I want to do is I want to use the Gatsby image, which is the most powerful tool on the planet, in my opinion. I don't work for them. That's not an endorsement from them. That is just because it makes images work. The problem is we have to go into GraphQL. So let's do that. Now also I am using the template that I built that is based upon the Gatsby starter default template. So if we go Gatsby starter default, and we'll just put JS in case it finds the great Gatsby, that you can find it inside their starter library. Oh, we hit the GitHub page. We're going to need to go shooting live. Let me go back to Gatsby.js. There we go, not GitHub. And you'll know the Gatsby starter default because you'll see the little spaceman. You'll see it says, "Hi people, welcome to Gatsby site." The reason why I use this is because this image uses Gatsby's image. So it already has, if we go look for it, I'm looking for the Gatsby Transformer Sharp and the Gatsby plugin Sharp as well. So those two plugins make Gatsby image, which is right here, work, which is the great part. It's already previously installed. If you are using a different template or if you're following along at home, then double check to make sure you do have those. So if I go into my Gatsby config, I thought I had it open, but I guess not. What I'm looking for are a couple things to make this work. I'm looking for one, the Gatsby source file system, which is defaulted to images. Again, it's built into the Gatsby starter default, which is why I love this default library so much. What I'm also looking for is the Gatsby Transformer Sharp and the Gatsby plugin Sharp plugins. So if you do not have those, please install them before going forward. If you have them installed, good. Now let's tackle GraphQL. So what I want to do is I want to pull an image in here, but I don't want to use the capital IMAGE. I want to use the Gatsby image, which is capital IMG. But first I want to go into GraphQL because I have to figure out how this image is pulled. So the great part about Gatsby is that it just provides you with a link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my command key down inside of my iTerm2, and up pops GraphQL. And for the fun of it, I'm going to close all these things because at first it can get overwhelming if you're not knowing what you're looking for. It took me a while to get used to GraphQL as well because it looks like this. And I'm like, whoa, what, oh, geez. So the great part about GraphQL is there's two sides. There's the word all, and then there's not, basically. And I'm looking for a file. More importantly, if we look at Gatsby config, I am looking for an images, which is inside of the source folder and images. So if I come into GraphQL and I go into all file and I say hit the little play button, there is 4 files with IDs because you always have to have an ID with what's called a node. Now, what I'm going to do is in this all file, I'm going to scroll down and look for the word that says relative path because the relative path is the path right here. So if I play this, note how when I click relative path, there's 4 files. For this demonstration, I did keep. So if I go to source and I go to images and notice that there are 4 files, Gatsby icon, Gatsby astronaut, Golden Gate Bridge, and Muir Woods, and icon, astronaut, Golden Gate Bridge, and Muir Woods. Everything, if it works in GraphQL, it's going to work on your individual JS or JSX file. So I first want to come over here to GraphQL, and I found all the files. But I don't want all the files, I just want a file. So the all file will show me everything, which is great. But all I need for starters is the Golden Gate Bridge. So let's do this. Notice how the relative path is equal to Golden Gate Bridge. I'm going to copy this text right here. So all file shows me all files, but file just shows me a file. So if I go file, well, that'll show me the first file in the list, but only shows me one file. And yes, I've just said file way too many times in this talking point. So I have to look for I want some way to say file relative path equals the name of the file name. So I'm looking for is the word file relative path. And here it is. So once again, I'm looking for file and then relative path, and EQ stands for equals. So if I click equals and paste it in, looking for Golden Gate Bridge, it finds the path. Now for the fun of it, I also did, I think I had that before, so let me uncheck these. What yours will probably do is just come up with this ID. I had those checked before, so when I re-clicked the arrow, it came down. But notice how file relative path equals Golden Gate Bridge has an ID. What I also like to do is I can double check the absolute path just to make sure it's pulling the right information. And my folder structure from the base of my users folder is users, Haydn 5, Gatsby projects 45, source, images, and Golden Gate Bridge. That of course is not what we need because we already have the knowledge of the relative path. So if I were to change and say, you know what, I don't need the absolute path, I just need the relative path, it's going to bring a confirmation in and say, yes, by you searching or making this equal to a relative path of Golden Gate Bridge, it just echoed that below. Awesome. We found our file in GraphQL. But we have to do more than that because it's not just going to work. So what I'm looking for is down below, I'm looking for the word child. I'm not in the right direction. There it is. I was looking down below looking at these words like image sharp, but I'm looking for inside of the file. If I come back to the top, I'm looking for somewhere that says child image sharp. And if I come down into the blue, notice how there's an arrow next to child image sharp. This is where the magic is going to happen, because child image sharp, Gatsby Image is going to then digitally edit this picture and without having to worry about editing the picture in Photoshop. It's pretty cool. So since we know the relative path is working, we can get rid of that little guy. So let's just do some housekeeping. And child image sharp starts, but we haven't finished this part yet. So child image sharp really comes down to two things. Do you want to use it as fixed, or do you want to use it as fluid? Fixed locks the picture in place and it doesn't move at all. Like, it is locked in solid, and I rarely use the fixed. There are some reasons down the road to use them, but 99 out of 100 times I find that I use the fluid over the fixed. So in fluid, what I can do is I can set different parameters to this picture. And what I'm looking for is the max width and the maxed height to start out with. So what I'm thinking about for this picture, and this is what I'm going to look at. If we look at this graphic overall, and I go, that's a pretty cool picture. What I want to stop thinking about in terms of width and height are numerical values, but more of a ratio. So let's say I want this at 50% ratio. So let's say the width is 600. Well, then for 50%, the height's going to be 300. So what I'm going to do is, in the max height, I'm going to say 300. And in the max width, I'm going to say 600. That's going to make this picture be the tallest at 600 by 300. Now, if you're getting this, what I want to do eventually is, if this is set to a 50% or a 6 by 3 or a 3 by 6, then I want to make the next picture be the same ratio. Now, how does it crop? Well, we get a few options to crop this with. So what I want to look at is there is actually a piece called the crop focus. And the crop focus lets you choose north, northeast, east, southeast. You get the idea, and it'll kind of do attention. What I like to do is just say center, because at the end of the day, it's going to pull the focus into the center of the picture when I'm crop focusing with the max height and the max width. What I will also do is I'll just say fit cover to make sure it fits all the way through. Otherwise, it'll contain, fill, inside, outside. So for me, I check fit cover. Congratulations, you've actually just written GraphQL if you didn't notice this at all, which is really powerful. So let's bring in this element into our code. So in Gatsby config, I'm going to close that up, and I've got my project right here. Again, I used the React Bootstrap image in the past, and that's going to go away. So what I have to do is I have to bring in the Gatsby image and then ditch the eventual. I already have one picture left over, so I'm not going to get rid of it just yet. But what I'm going to do is inside this index file, just my default, I'm going to say, hit the return key twice, and simply type import img from Gatsby. And if it's installed properly, let me see if it catches. Maybe. There it is. So it's going to pull the Gatsby image from Gatsby Image. If you don't see this, then it's not installed properly, and you have to go back and install it first. So the first thing to do is I have to declare the import img from Gatsby Image. The next thing I have to do is write GraphQL, or write a query to pull this information out of GraphQL and bring it into this design. So at the very bottom of my template, once again, I'm really just using that starter. Where did it go? Here it is. I'm just using the Gatsby starter default. And if you even notice the way it looks, it still has, hi people, welcome to your new Gatsby site. Now build something great. And I even kept the go to page 2 at the very bottom. So literally this template is really just this one right here. So if you do want to follow along, double check and download this one to follow along successfully. So back into my index.js at the very bottom, line 57, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if I have it right, export constant page. query equals GraphQL. And we'll use our back tick mark. Oops. Hit it twice, semicolon that, and then in the middle, hit the return key and give us some space to write a query. So what I also have to do is I have to pull the page query in the top where it says import link Gatsby. I also have to type in page query. You have to actually reference this inside of the Gatsby line. For me, it's line 2. It could be somewhere else for you as well. So down here, we come back to the part. I'm going to say, I thought I had it tabbed in. Query. I want to query this information. Now the query looks a lot like the query. And I had a different thing, so ignore the word audio query. That's just not needed in this case. I was pulling some audio files from a previous project. So in the query, I'm going to hit space, open curly bracket and close curly bracket. And in this query, I want to then say, for this case, Golden Gate Bridge GI. And this is for Gatsby Image. So just because at the very top, I had Golden Gate Bridge, and now down here is Golden Gate Bridge GI for Gatsby Image. And what I want to do is hit the colon, and this is where the magic all happens. So see where it says file? Well, what I want to do is I'm going to copy and paste this information. If I make sure I have enough, 1, 2, good out those pieces. I have 1, yep, that's right. Making sure I got enough, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, perfect. So I'm making sure I copy all of the open semicolons, the open curly brackets, which I have 1, 2, I didn't think I had enough copied. I wasn't losing it. So I'm going to bring this in. So I'm going to copy it because I know that this works. GraphQL tells me it works successfully over here, so I'm going to copy it so it works over here. I'm going to paste it right there, and notice that this Golden Gate Bridge GI is file relative path equal to Golden Gate Bridge.jpg. The ID can essentially go away because we're not going to use it. And what it's going to say is child image sharp, fluid, max height 300, max width 600, crop focus center, and fit cover. Now, what GraphQL will not show us is the Gatsby image does have to have one more piece of this puzzle. And you can find it by going, oops, to Gatsby. Let me head over to Chrome on that one, actually. I think I did not have it open. Gatsby Image JS. And inside of Gatsby Image is a lot of documentation. But what I'm looking for is, if I scroll down, notice the Gatsby Transformer Sharp, and it does even tell you it will not show up in GraphQL. So note, due to a limitation of GraphQL, you cannot currently use these fragments in the graphical IDE. So note that it will not work over here. This is as far as we possibly can go. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring one of the fluids. Notice it says fixed or fluid. I'm going to say Gatsby Image Sharp Fluid. And what I'm going to do is inside after the fluid, I'm going to hit space, open curly bracket, and close curly bracket, and then period, 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 paste Gatsby Image Sharp Fluid. And now I'm pulling that data and I'm making this be fluid with Gatsby Image Sharp Fluid. And if I save it, it's going to fail. And what did I do? You know, you think you plan for these and you think it's going to work, and then you realize you do something really, really obvious after the fact. So I declared at the very top the wrong word. I meant to declare the GraphQL, not the page query. So of course it's like, it's already been declared. I'm like, no, it hasn't. But it actually has. So my bad. This is called Coding 101. It's not page query up here. It's GraphQL. And thereby, it's going to fail if you follow that literally. So as an FYI, please fix that. It is link and GraphQL. And now, perfect. We should have just 2 warnings on mine. I have Golden Gate Bridge is defined but never used. I took it out. And the capital IMG is defined but never used because we haven't used it yet. So what I want to do next is, after it says index page, inside my parentheses, I'm going to write data. I need to pull data from my GraphQL. And so what I'm going to do is, inside my card, I'm on line 23, when you're following along at home on this piece. What I want to write is I'm going to say capital IMG for Gatsby Image. Now this is where all the power comes in. Now the first question is it fixed or is it fluid? So in this case, it's fluid. And notice a little question mark right here. It is fluid. And now once it's fluid, where's the picture? Well, if we follow the rabbit hole, the first word is we're going to say data. And after that, we get to follow GraphQL down as far as possible. So after we say data and period, what I want to do is I'm going to want to write, ignore the different colors of pieces because I didn't close that tag yet. What I want to do is I want to say data.goldengatebridge.childimage_sharp.fluid. And that's going to pull the information down because along the way, we said pull this information and the file is relative to this picture. So what I'm going to do is come back. I should have not left it open, but I did. You know what I'm going to do? Let's just close it with a slash and a greater than symbol. Now all my colors are restored. So in data, I'm going to say golden gate, not bridge. That was, that's the top one. I was like, how did that catch it? No, Golden Gate Bridge GI for Gatsby Image in here, and say child image sharp, noting the uppercase. So also as an FYI, if we come back down, notice how I capitalized G, B, and GI. So if we come back up here, capital G, capital B, and GI, dot child image sharp dot fluid. And I will also put an alt because it's always really proper to always make sure you have alt tags. And I'll say alt, and I'll say Golden Gate Bridge. And I'm just doing some housekeeping to make sure it looks a little cleaner. Now when I save this, yep, Golden Gate Bridge is not defined. So now we can comment that out. Let's save and take a look at our picture. Where'd it go? Notice how much shorter it is. It was a little shorter before, but just so we can take a look at it. Oh, I probably should have saved that. Oh well. But let's make it extra short to see it, take a look at it. So in the max height, let's go 100. And I think we can do it this way. We'll pull it over here and we'll save. And if we say 100, and I refresh this page, it might need to be reset because it usually doesn't catch the maxed height all the time. So if you don't see it change, stop your development server and re-kick in. I have found a couple times where the crop didn't catch perfectly and it took a little bit longer to rebuild the image, or I had to stop and rebuild the actual development server. So if I go and do it, there it goes. Now it regenerates the image thumbnails. And now if we refresh this after we finish building this bundle, this is going to be a 6:1 ratio. So this is going to be a very, very short picture at the 100 stage. And there it is. So notice how the picture got a lot smaller in terms of the height. Well, that's good. The width kicked all the way to the edge of the card. And the fluid, of course, let the picture. So notice how it adjusts based upon the different breakpoints of the React Bootstrap. Cool. We did it once, we can do it twice. So if I can duplicate this by saying, you know what, let me copy. It's 1, 2, 3 brackets down. And instead of Golden Gate Bridge, we're then going to say Muir Woods. Now I'm not going to worry about the GI because I'm going to take out the one at the top, so we're not going to confuse the two. But what I have to do next is I have to change the word Muir Woods, or I have to change it from Golden Gate Bridge to Muir Woods, and I have to change the relative path equal to the file name at which I want to pull it in. So what I'm looking for is in my images folder, muirwoods.jpg. Also, as an FYI, if you copy and paste it from the Mac and you don't catch the JPG, this happened to me and I'll show you the problem I did. It took like 20 minutes to figure out what I did wrong. If I bring this in and just say Muir Woods, that's not the relative path like we see. I have too many browsers. I should have stuck with just Chrome and I went into Safari. But notice how the relative path is .jpg. Just so you're aware, and this does happen to me if I'm just rushing or I don't notice something, if I save this and then I try to run this again, it's going to fail. And it's like, well, I don't know what's going on here because it can't compile. And then I realize that I haven't actually finished Muir Woods because it has to be .jpg. And it will kick into gear. Oh, and the second part also is I have to take out this one. There it goes. So just as an FYI, if you do forget the .jpg, it'll usually crash and just not show you anything. So there's a problem. So as an FYI, it will not work if you don't have the .jpg going on. And I'll type in .jpg and we're good. And of course now the image is defined but never used. So I'm taking out what I don't need anymore in this project. So in the image, we'll take it out. I try to run without as many errors as possible, trying to nip them in the bud as fast as impossible. So I've got it all set to go. So I've taken out my React Bootstrap image and I want to bring in now the same style. So I can copy and paste this Gatsby image right where the React Bootstrap image was, tab it in, and instead of Golden Gate Bridge, I'm going to say Muir Woods, and in the alt, Muir Woods National Monument. And if I save, now we should see our two perfectly sized by ratio pictures. And this is what I was trying to get to the error message, that if I don't have the JPG, here is where the errors will show up. And it's not catching. I can't get this error message to work. Let's try it one more time. Just so I wanted to show it to you in this way. Gatsby develop, because the relative path is equal to Muir Woods, but it will not catch it. So if it tries to build the thumbnail, it won't find the JPG. And I wanted to show you what happens. It's almost like the minute you want to create the error message, you can't create it. But the minute you don't want the error message shows up. So hopefully, building development bundle, we should have something that shows that. Perfect. That's what I was trying to show before. I just couldn't get the error message. So type error cannot read property child image sharp of null. So just as an FYI, this child image sharp is trying to pull the information from this right here. So if you just see this error message, you're like, what's this type error? Just know that it just cannot find the picture. And I have to type JPG, save, rebuild. And once again, I have to start and stop and start. And we'll run this one more time. And while we're waiting, notice how we did all of our cropping within of our code. Thereby, I can move them from 100 to 200 to 500. I could do a 1-to-1 ratio. I could do 600 to 600 if that was the case. So now that's better. Now we're back to the 1-to-1 ratio. If I wanted to go 300, I could eventually go to 300. It's going to rebuild my graphics. I don't know why Gatsby's taking a little bit longer in this demo. Again, it always works until you hit the record button and it doesn't want to show you. But this is a way to use cards and Gatsby Image to really create a clean design amongst any kind of repetition in terms of cards. Because when you have React Bootstrap Cards, you want to make it look as clean as possible, and thereby we get the power of these two graphics. Now, pulling it one step further, what I would also do is, oh, I got rid of it too. Shoot. Let's bring back that class name as well. Let me go find that file. I thought I meant to keep it, and I didn't. So the one thing I do want to also include in here, yes, I've got two index files, and now I can't find the file. You know what we'll just do? Let's just go over to get bootstrap, and we'll say cards. Because we're not using an image tag in a classic way, but I still want to bring in the card information, what I'm looking for is class card image top to declare the picture at the top. Yes, it does go there by default, but it never hurts to add the class just to make sure it holds it for sure at the top. So what I want to do is, inside this image tag, or IMG, I'm just going to say class name and replicate card image top. And I'll duplicate that up top as well. And what I usually bring in as well for the Gatsby image is I'm going to say fade in. If I had a lot of graphics, this allows me to do lazy loading, which is so cool. And I'll bring in fade in right here. And now we are back. There we go. Just took it longer to rebuild those graphics. Once again, Gatsby's just taking its sweet time, but this looks really clean. Yes, I didn't actually finish the H2 on both of them, but in terms of the Gatsby images, it pulled the graphics, and as I go and make them taller, bigger, shorter, long ways, sideways, up ways, back ways, the pictures are super fluid in a responsive way. I used GraphQL down below in order to initiate the crop, center, fit, cover, and everything works. And that's how you can use Gatsby Image Fluid inside of cards in your next project. Ready to continue becoming a better web designer through code? Check out more of my videos through my channel, A Designer Who Codes. Thanks so much for watching.